Who should actually consider a whole house standby generator? Who can get by without one? And whether spending $5-6K for a 22 kilowatts unit makes sense for a typical family? That's the question that keeps a lot of homeowners up at night when the lights flicker during a storm. If you're on the fence about whether Generac Guardian 22 kilowatts system is the right fit for your house, you probably have a few worries. Will it start when I need it? Will it power everything I care about, my fridge, heating system, maybe a home office? And, most importantly, will it cost me more in the long run than the peace of mind it promises? The link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's unpack those concerns, look at who really benefits from this setup, and see where the value actually lives. First off, think about the type of power demand your home has. A 22 kilowatts generator can comfortably handle a fairly large load, whole house heating, multiple AC units, a kitchen full of appliances, even a workshop's tools. If you have a two-story home with central air, an electric water heater, and a garage workshop, the Guardian's rating is a good safety net. It's not a tiny 7 kilowatts unit that can only keep a few lights on. It's sized for whole house protection, which means you won't have to be picky about which circuits stay live when the grid goes down. That's a big selling point if you've ever had a blackout that forced you to choose between keeping the fridge cold or running a heat pump. On the other hand, if you live in a smaller ranch-style home, have a modest heating system, and generally don't run many hydro appliances simultaneously, you might be overkill. The upfront cost and the requirement for a dedicated fuel line, either natural gas or liquid propane, can add up. In many cases, a 12 kilowatts unit is sufficient for those smaller footprints, and the savings on installation and fuel consumption can be significant. So the first rule of thumb: match the generator's capacity to your peak demand, not to the size of your property alone. Now, let's talk about the day-to-day reality of owning a standby generator. Installation is marketed as easy, but there are hidden steps that most buyers only discover when they get to the contractor's quote. You'll need a permit for the fuel line, proper grounding, and a location that meets clearance codes, usually a concrete pad a few feet from the house. For many homeowners, the biggest surprise is the need for a professional electrician to hook up the 200-amp transfer switch. That switch is what tells the generator to take over automatically when it senses a grid loss. And it's a critical safety component because it prevents backfeeding electricity into the grid, which could endanger utility workers. If you're comfortable coordinating with a licensed electrician and a gas technician, the easy label holds up. The transfer switch itself is a solid piece of hardware. It monitors voltage, isolates the home circuits, and switches over in under 10 seconds. That speed matters a lot if you have medical equipment that can't tolerate any lapse in power. In practice, families with seniors, infants, or home-based medical devices often cite that rapid switchover as a lifesaver. For a typical homeowner who just wants to keep the lights on and the fridge cold, a 10-second gap might feel like a non-issue, but it's a concrete benefit when the stakes are higher. Another practical strength is the remote monitoring capability. Generac's Wi-Fi module lets you check fuel levels, runtime, and fault codes from a smartphone app. In real life, that means you can see at a glance whether the generator ran overnight, or if it's sitting idle with a low propane tank. Imagine you're at work and a storm rolls in. You get a push notification that the unit started, and you can verify everything is functioning without having to call a neighbor. That level of transparency can cut down on the anxiety that many first-time generator owners feel. It's not just a nice to have. It translates directly into fewer unnecessary service calls and a better sense of control over the system. But there are also tangible weaknesses. The most common practical complaint about any large standby generator is fuel consumption. Running 22 kilowatts continuously on propane can chew through a tank fairly quickly, especially if you're also running a whole house air conditioner in the summer heat. The Guardian's fuel gauge is accurate, but you'll likely need a larger propane tank than the standard 500 gallons unit that comes with many residential installations. That translates to higher upfront fuel costs and more frequent deliveries if you're using propane instead of a city natural gas connection. Natural gas, of course, is cheaper per kilowatt-hour, but requires a fixed supply line and local utility availability, which not every suburban area has. So the decision between gas and propane isn't just about price, it's about infrastructure and ongoing operating cost. Noise is another factor that often gets swept under the spec sheet. The Guardian is built to meet EPA emission standards, which also keep